Businesses worldwide depend on the SAP ERP software suite for efficient operations. But with support for SAP ECC scheduled to end in 2027, it's time to start migrating to the more advanced SAP S/4HANA. With so much riding on an organization's ERP suite, downtime during the migration is unacceptable. What's needed is a test suite that can guide the process to a smooth conclusion. I am Stan Gibson for CIO Marketing Services, and I'll be your host and moderator for this video webcast. Joining me to take a look at just what the right test suite can do for your organization is an expert, Melissa Harkess, Solutions Subject Matter Expert for the SAP Product Suite at Vertex. Welcome, Melissa. Great to have you here for this webcast.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
Before we dive into our discussion, just a quick word to you and our audience. Now, in the resources area of your webcast player, you'll find a variety of links and documents relating to today's topic. So we do encourage you to take a look there at any time. Melissa, before we get into today's topic, please tell us just a bit about yourself and how you've come to be a part of the SAP Solutions Group at Vertex.
Sure. So prior to coming to Vertex, I was an indirect tax manager. So not really in the IT realm, but involved in the periphery. I spent 15 years in sales and use tax. I've implemented tax software. I have changed ERP systems. I've been through audits. I know kind of what that tax environment looks like. And I've been through a lot of testing scenarios and the struggles that we go through making sure that everybody is involved in those processes. And then I got this offer to come over to Vertex and decided to come and be an advocate for the software that I love.
Quite a resume, Melissa. Let me ask you then, faced with migrating from SAP ECC to SAP S/4HANA, what do you see as key challenges that IT and tax organizations need to address?
So the migration from ECC to S4HANA is the optimal time to review your business processes and ensure that your processes as a whole and your tax technology continue to fit and be future-proof for what is happening in your system. And you can take this time because it can be a bit challenging to do it in an existing system without an external need for change. But you can look at those long-standing issues, those extensive customizations that you might have, or those manual interventions, and see where you might be able to mitigate or reduce some of those processes. But the challenges are you've got resource limitations. Going through a big ERP change is very time consuming. It's a lot of work from your IT, it's a lot of work from your business, and everybody still needs to do their day job. So getting committed resources is a challenge. And then you also have budget constraints. It's not a cheap process to move ERP systems. So as much as you might want to hold on to that ECC, you got to make the move and you got to budget for every little thing that goes into it. And a big part of that cost is going to be your external consultants and making sure that you have everything covered off. Now, from the tax side, we're not always the first ones at the table when it comes to making sure that there's business processes and things that are going on. So we need to make sure we're coordinating with our IT team and the business in general to know what's happening and make sure that we're out there in the forefront and know what's happening with our data and seeing if we need to redesign or reconfigure or hopefully not do any lift and shifts, but making sure that we've got an optimal process going forward.
Well, Melissa, businesses face a host of external pressures, and I'm wondering about their influence on the process. So, what IT and tax problems are posed by other dynamic changes, such as, let's say, globalization, mergers and acquisitions, and the regulatory environment?
So for globalization, as businesses expand their footprint and it's easier to sell across borders, you run into issues with conflicting regulatory requirements. Some countries are very, very strict on their invoicing. You have to follow a certain format, have certain text, certain guidelines. In the US, not as strict. So you have these competing things that you have to make sure your system is configured for and can handle all of these different requirements. And then you have maybe with the M&A, you have multiple ERP systems and multiple tax platforms that you're trying to integrate and pull your data in from. And that can be a significant challenge for your tax team and for your business in general. Pulling together financial statements from multiple systems, making sure everybody's following the same processes. It's a big challenge out there. The tax world isn't static. There's always new requirements out there. One big thing lately is e-invoicing, making sure your system talks to government systems, which is started out in Brazil. It's making its way over to EMEA now, so making sure that you're being proactive for those regulatory requirements.
So, Melissa, where does Vertex fit into this?
So Vertex, when you think of Vertex, you really think of just sales tax determination, and it's more than that, especially when it comes to SAP. So yes, we do determine how much your sales taxes are and if something's taxable or not. But we also have these tools that integrate with your SAP platform. They're embedded in their own namespace in SAP. They give you more control and flexibility over what is happening in your system and what's going on, and get you better tax results. Now that can, and we also have a whole suite of products. So we try to do the whole end to end. So we handle tax determination, um, exemption certificates, which are prevalent in the US. We have handle e-invoicing for many countries. And then we have a whole compliance or return suite that we manage. So we have you all the way from determination to when you need to file those returns with the government.
Well, clearly, Vertex plays a role in many of these systems integrations. What do you see as the importance of testing in these integrations?
So testing is key, and from a tax perspective, it's not just making sure that your tax comes out with the right result. You need to make sure that your processes are accurate and that that's going on. And that can be hard when you're testing. So if you're changing your tax platform, maybe you're just looking at your tax results. But what you really need to verify is need to make sure from sales order creation all the way to account posting that everything is flowing through correctly and that you're getting the right determination. So you're not looking at just one siloed piece, you're looking at the full end-to-end process. And that can be a bit challenging because you have to make sure every team is working together. You need somebody from sales to create that sales order. You need billing involved. You need somebody to do a delivery note. You need to make sure the inventory is in your system. You have to find that data. So it can be a big challenge to ensure that all the data is in place before you even get to the testing.
So, what happens if you don't test enough?
But if you don't test enough, or if you have those unusual situations you don't test completely, you end up risking when you do go live having something fail. And you might not notice it from a business perspective. It may be your customer that notices it, maybe more than one customer that notices it. And that's not good from a reputation standpoint or from a business perspective to have your customers saying that, hey, my invoice is wrong, or this is not what my country requires, and you need to change something in your system. So you don't want those external pressures to escalate. You want to make sure everything's resolved internally and that you have an effective system before you go live.
What does the Vertex Test Suite bring to the table?
So the test suite is a very interesting piece of software. It is patented, which is unique to Vertex. So we have we're patented in our test process and what we do. So what it does is you go in, it is integrated into your SAP, just like all of the Vertex Plus tools are, and it will go out and retrieve without human intervention, based on the parameters that you set. So you create a test script, for lack of a better word, or a test scenario that you want to do. and how many times you want to test it. You give it maybe some minimal criteria. I want this cost center, this account, this material, some key indicators. I want to copy this purchase order. It will go out, find that information in your system, and recreate it all the way from creation to end processing. So it takes you from end to end, and it clearly highlights if there are any failures, not just whether your tax was correct or not, but whether there was a breakdown in the process. Could it not create an accounting document? Did the invoice fail? Was there a BAPI issue? It will highlight those problems in the test process. So it looks at more than just your tax results, but your whole process and make sure that it's working from end to end.
Sounds impressive. How exactly does TestSuite work?
So like I said, you go in, you have it installed into your SAP environment. You load a test script, which has examples. And again, it will go and mine that information in your existing SAP environment. If you don't have an active example for your test suite, it will create it, even creating inventory for you. And then it will run that script and automatically create it. And this takes seconds to do. So instead of spending time trying to find the information, making sure the inventory is there, making sure all your different teams are involved and you have everything staged correctly to go through the process, you just upload an Excel file with your script, have it run, and it's done in seconds. So you can have hundreds of test scripts done, and you know that your process is working.
How would you say TestSuite differs from other tax automation programs?
They're not likely to be as in depth. They're not going to be sitting in your SAP environment mining that information. You still have a lot of manual inputs and staging that you might have to do to get in different automation programs. And we're the only one currently that is patented. So we have this unique situation that's only for Vertex customers.
Does the Vertex Test Suite require any special expertise to use?
No, once it's implemented, then anybody, either from your IT or from your tax or anybody who has access or and wants to test a scenario, maybe you're doing it for this S4HANA migration, maybe you have an acquisition coming on board to your SAP environment, you need to test to make sure things are going. Maybe you're changing business processes and you need to make sure everything is working correctly. You can use this test suite to make sure everything is flowing through correctly. All you have to do is load your script, press the button, and it will do all the work for you.
Hmm. Well, it sounds great. Now, what would a testing process look like, say, without TestSuite?
So without test suite, I mentioned before, it's a lot of work and it involves a lot of coordination. You have to make sure you have all the teams involved. It's not just someone from your IT department going through and say, hey, we need to test this. You have to talk to your sales team. You have to talk to your warehouse management to make sure inventory is there. You have to talk to your billing team. You have to talk to your AP analysts. You have to make sure you have to talk to your accounting people, make sure everything posted all the way through to accounting. So it's a lot of extra coordination. And in our experience, we've timed it out. It takes about 75 minutes per test scenario to go from end to end in a manual process. Whereas with Test Suite, it takes seconds. So it's a lot of time, a lot of money because you're having to pay everybody for their time and having the resources there and getting things done a little more efficiently.
How can members of our audience get started with TestSuite?
That's pretty easy. Go to vertex.com. You can chat with one of our associates. You can give us a call. We can tell you a little more about it.
Melissa, we're nearing the end of our time, but before we close, what should members of our audience keep in mind?
Businesses are constantly evolving, and ensuring that your tax and your business processes are fully integrated and up to date and working correctly is crucial to making sure your business stays agile and responsive to the current needs. You don't have time to spend months testing things before you roll it out. You need to be able to respond to things as they happen.
Well, that's certainly great information and good advice, Melissa. Thank you. That is all the time we have in this video webcast. Sincere thanks once again to Melissa Harkess of Vertex for explaining the importance of a seamless SAP S/4HANA migration and how the Vertex Test Suite can help make that migration possible while handling the challenging tax demands of global organizations. For more information on this topic, please do see the resources area of your webcast player. And thanks for joining us. For Vertex and CIO, I'm Stan Gibson.